everybody, and welcome back to the Established Facts. Welcome to episode 238. I have to look at my notes because it's been...
That's a lot.
A lot. I hope you guys are staying well, being able to get together with your family and friends and game in this new year.
Games?
Yeah, absolutely.
Games.
We didn't say this on our last episode when we all got a chance to sit around the table and play some King of Tokyo, but Happy New Year into the 2023s.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, it's going to take us at least 6 months to get used to writing 23 at the end of our date, and then by the time we're actually good at it, and remember, it'll be 2024 before we know.
You still write 23 at the end of things?
Yeah.
Huh.
Like 2023, like the date?
Yeah, I don't write that anymore.
No?
I've gone fully digital.
Oh. Well,
We'll talk about transhumanism another day.
Okay. All right.
That's the next topic.
It's just that lizard brain. You already have the circuits already implanted in there, so you don't even have to put the date. It just takes a timestamp every time you blink.
Yeah, it just won't have D&D one of them.
Oh.
So, all right. So we're going to get into some nitty gritty. Do we want to do the versus topic, or do we just want to go right into the discussion?
Did you actually have a versus topic?
So I was talking a little bit about the idea of doing like min maximalist versus a max minimalist kind of thing. So like,
do you even know what that means?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
I can give you a definition.
You realize that no one has been introduced yet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's normal. I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
at this point. Isn't that normal now?
We're going to introduce everybody.
I don't. You guys are already getting to the versus topic and the topic. I'm like,
you know what I am really used to is losing control of this podcast and always being interrupted.
Woo.
So I guess
.com.
before we get into our subject matter, we'll go ahead and introduce the people on the podcast, starting to my left.
This is Josh.
this is Dr. Deb.
Piercy.
And I, of course, am your pseudo-host for episode 238, because I'm sure at some point in time, things will be taken away. Big Don, and we have Lance on our camera and mics back there. Thank you so much, Lance, for being here with us. Love you, buddy.
Are we just going to glaze past the fact that Jason said his last name?
No, he says that. It's
No,
kind of
well,
a
I mean,
50-50.
Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it depends on. It depends if I'm having fun or if I'm going to be serious.
It's true.
Oh.
Yeah.
So serious Jason's here.
Yes, that's
Great.
right. That's right.
I feel like we're in a
okay.
horror movie. Okay.
To go back to, do we want to just go right into discussion? Or do we want to do our minimalist, maximalist?
I say let's do a quick fire versus just
All
to
right.
get the juices flowing.
So here's the general concept of the minimalist, maximalist versus topic. So I kind of played around with the verbiage, but in general, as a gamer, are you one who tends to be more of a maximalist when it comes to the product that you use, the types of things that you have at your game table, or are you more of a minimalist? So maybe a maximalist might have, Roll20 up, or Foundry, or you're using a lot of digital things, or even if you have like every D&D mini on like really cool 3D terrain and different things like that, or are you more of a minimalist when it comes to your gaming, so you do a lot more theater of the mind, maybe instead of rolling a lot of dice or having like 25 different sets of dice, you use a deck of cards or something like that. So things that would make you more of a minimalist gamer versus a maximalist gamer. Is that
Sure.
maximalist? Sure.
I think that's a
Maximist?
Maximilian.
Maximilian.
Literally was going to say that word.
Marxist? No, sorry.
No.
No.
Marcus.
Apolitical.
No, that's right.
Maximus.
So yeah, if we want to dive into that, because I feel like
Circus
it kind of plays into a
That
little bit more of
works.
our discussion topic.
Gaius Julius.
So it'll play into a little
Hail
bit of our
Caesar.
subject, and then we'll. I hate you all.
Sorry.
That's all right. I expect to lose control at some point. Normally, it's sooner than later. Today, it happened to be sooner. So let's go ahead. We'll go in reverse order at the table. So. Minimalist, maximalist gamer, Mr. Piercy.
Like, I really want to say minimalist because I enjoy the theater of the mind greatly. I think that is the best way, as long as everyone at the table is comfortable with it and can really have a shared imaginative space. However, that being said, I use a lot of technology when I run because you can set up a soundscape, which I think helps the the minimalist feel, right?
Immersion.
Exactly. If I've got a map or a picture or something people can look at, it's not this must be what it is, Rarely do I use maps. I do have maps. I do use maps. I never use minis. Sometimes I will use, not Roll20, but there's a couple of the programs that you can, it's much more plug and play. You can do things yourself. And it's I'm a DIY person all the way. So it's much more of I can set it up to do exactly what we want it to do. Great, we can move forward. And the question is always, is it going to bog the gameplay down, or will it make it smoother? If it's going to bog it down, I don't want to do it. If it's going to make it smoother, I'd like to do that. If it's going to make it more imaginative, I want to do that. So that's my answer.
Okay.
Not always a minimalist, but I prefer minimalist.
Okay. Prefer minimalist. All right. Deb?
This is going to be a really interesting podcast, Don, because I actually am right with Jason at this point, so this might be a very interesting discussion as we continue, because I want to be a minimalist. I like it, keeping it simple. I mean, ultimately, if you would just hand me a piece of paper and a pencil and a few dice, maybe not even a full set of 7 dice, that, okay, we're going to roll these 3 dice, whatever, I'm okay. Let's dive in and let's do this. But I am with Jason that in the era we live in, so the only game that I've ever run, we did online. Because at the time I was running it, that's what we had to do. Sure. So our friends Derek and Dan were online. Sometimes Kayla was even online. And Josh and I were sitting. And that was the way we ran it inside Roll20. And I couldn't have run it with them otherwise. So I'm totally with him. If it bogs anything down, no. We're wasting time when we could be having fun. And someone could be flurrying of jaws onto a harpy here. But... inside joke. Sorry, it was so fantastic. That was also online. But if it's gonna smooth things out, if it's gonna make it more fun, if it's gonna make it smoother, easier, can more people play? Can more people experience it? Then I'm all for it. So I want to be a minimalist, but the reality is that if I want to play with somebody who's in California, that is a fantastic player, but he doesn't live here anymore, or Texas, as Derek and Dan. You can go online, plug in Foundry. Here we go. We can do that. Okay, you roll your electronic dice so everyone can see what you rolled. You can, all that. So I want to be a minimalist, but I want a better game experience. That's more important to me than being a minimalist.
Okay. All right. Joshy?
I am a maximalist pretty much all the way.
Yes, he is.
I was really excited for when I got to you.
Yeah. I have now worked within the digital and physical realms for both things. I have even primarily transitioned to a hybrid model. I prefer to play in person, but I went and took our 49-inch television in here and wrapped it in wood so I could set it down on the table and display digital maps.
Oh yeah.
And though
Cover it with plexiglass.
we started it, we put plexiglass on it to use physical minis, but turned out it was actually easier just to use the digital minis. Everybody could still see, and it worked out really well. And just as Deb mentioned, like this last weekend, Kayla couldn't join us. But because I was using Foundry, it can open the technology up for it. I stuck my tablet on one end of the table with a Bluetooth speaker, and she basically sat in the seat where she would normally be. Yep. And we played, but she was able to move her mini and be just as involved and so forth there. But when we are in a physical space, I'm a subscriber to Pathfinder's maps. I have all of these flip maps over there, tons of dragons, a bunch of goblins, all the miniatures and so forth if we want to go that route, because... though I don't mind playing in Theater of the Mind, I am capable of playing within Theater of the Mind. I find a lot of satisfaction in seeing the character beat the big monster.
Yeah.
Like
the tactile
right
connection.
here. Yeah. And then the technology thing is almost a conversation all in itself that
I would totally agree with you on that, actually. I completely agree. I'm going to shut up so you can keep talking. But I totally agree that that's almost a completely different conversation.
Yes. So I go both directions because I'm already a maximalist in terms of technology. I mean, look at what's going on in here.
They can't, but we can. Don't worry. We can see it all.
I got new lights, by the way. I should have brought them.
Oh,
Anyway.
okay.
Speaking of which,
but the physical side of it too, I know, especially my wife, she loves the tactile side of having a book, if possible, to look through. I don't mind having a tablet full of all of my books on it, especially if we're at a convention, but having both to me makes the game more accessible. I can do it virtually if we want to. We can do it physically if we want to. And to me, that's why I'm the maximalist, because I'm willing to go either way.
give the gamer more options. Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah, more
I think
options
that's
in
great.
5e.
I think that's great. I think that's great. We're gonna get there, Jason. Don't,
Sorry, I'm just gonna.
don't jump the gun.
I just dig. I can't help it.
That's all right. We're gonna get there. I'm gonna have to say, and then we can kind of get into the main crux of what our conversation is going to be about today. I am going to be on the opposite end. I feel like Deb and Jason are definitely what I would probably consider to be more fence sitters,
We're
just
fence
because of
sitters.
the reasoning.
Yeah.
But I totally
No,
agree with
you're
you.
totally right.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you that when it's convenient, when those things are there, those are really cool things. Personally, though, I'm totally a minimalist.
Yeah.
I think the most attention I spend is to make sure that I have the exact right dice for my character, because otherwise my characters roll like poo, and I don't care what your opinions are. You may not be superstitious. I'm not superstitious.
How'd those dice go yesterday?
I'm a little stitious. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I ran my wife's character yesterday and rolled horribly
Yep.
for both of us. So there you go. There you go.
I definitely have different dice for different characters. I
Yeah.
totally get that.
Yeah, that's probably the most maximalist I get is just having multiple sets of dice. But I'm a paperback or hardback book carrying folder with a bunch of sheets of paper that are just blank sheets of paper. It's even worse when I'm running a game. When I'm running a game, it's literally a set of dice and a notebook, and then you might get a map, because we're probably going to run Theater of the Mind for a lot of stuff. But I just feel like there's such a connection. What I love about roleplay gaming is that connection to the imaginative world. When I actually had somebody, this was really surprising to me, and probably just because of the circles I typically run in, but I was giving someone from work a ride home, and we were just talking about like hobbies and stuff, and I happened to mention that I really love playing Pathfinder, I really love playing Dungeons and Dragons, and she goes, "What is that? I've never heard of that." Well, she's older than I am, and so I was a little taken aback by that, and I was like, "Oh, well."
You haven't heard about?
I said, well, my friends and I like to call it collaborative storytelling, but in general, it's you sitting at a table with your friends, playing imagination like you're a knight or a wizard, and you're fighting against some enemy, and you get a chance to play imagination with people, and you use dice to help you determine the success or failure of the maneuvers or the different things that you're trying to do for the game. But in general, it's just you having some fun for 4 hours or so, depending on the game or the group, just playing imagination with one another like you did when you were 8, and she was like, "That sounds like a lot of fun." And I said, "It is a lot of fun. It is a really good time, and you can do it anywhere." And I know, I know that we kind of played with the whole minimalist, maximalist, fence sitting thing, but I think we could all agree that what's great about role playing games is you can role play anywhere with nothing or with everything.
You
Like,
could
that
be
is-
riding in a car.
that is the
between
yes.
Fort Myers and Orlando,
Yeah,
Florida,
absolutely.
for 3 hours, 2.5 hours,
It's
3
two,
hours.
2.5 hours one way, I think, and then 2.5 hours the other way. I drove.
Yep.
And then, or Josh drove, and then I drove on the way back, and we played a game of Fiasco in the car. To and
Fiasco.
from.
Oh,
It was so
I
much
love
fun.
Fiasco.
Yeah.
It was so much
Right?
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, it's such
So-
there is such a great there's such a great world of people and experiences that we can all have, and I know I've heard it multiple times, but it's remarkable for me that when you hear somebody talking about, and this is why I love gaming stories, when you hear somebody talking about a gaming story, it's, yeah, we were in this dungeon. They don't say my character.
Right.
They say we. They say I. Like as if this is a whole nother
Life phase.
aspect of their life.
Well,
Yeah.
it really is. I mean, psychologically, that
Yes.
it's not. People understand that this isn't real, right?
Right,
A lot
right.
of people, most people
Most
understand
people.
that it's not
Most
real.
people.
But it's still something you have experienced in a way, and something that
Yes.
you lived through or
Yes.
or did, real or not. That's why storytelling is stuck with human beings from the inception.
Time immemorial.
Yeah,
absolutely.
literally.
It's just a thing that we enjoy and like to tell. Like we were here, we did this
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
None of it was real. I didn't
Right.
really do that thing. I didn't really
Right.
slay that dragon.
Right.
Right.
But it feels
Yeah.
real. That's what's important.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. It's
still
that
real to me.
connection. Yeah, it's still
And the
right.
things you it is, but there are also still things you can learn from
Love
it.
it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
you can learn from role playing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating. I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. Go ahead, Deb.
Please.
Well, it's fascinating because in Derek's world, 3 or 4 of the different characters that I've played exist in Derek's world in the Library of Alexandria. So they haven't died. They have retired there. It's kind of like they retired to the Haunted Mansion, right? No, they retired to the Library of Alexandria. And so I have more than once, okay, I'm telling myself, more than once sat and just kind of in the quiet of my own mind and had conversations between them, because each one of them manifests a different part of Deb, and their experiences are different as to what they experienced. So I have my lore oracle Ziri, I have the cleric Lindariel, and I have the sorcerer Kia. They've all retired there, is what they've retired. No, Elisheva didn't end up there. And so I'm like, okay, do you have some sort of a mental disorder? Because at this moment you can imagine what they would be like, the three of them living in this library together, and what their interactions would be like. And yet it's very cool because it's exploring different parts of what I expressed in each of those characters. Mm-hmm. But they're all here. So maybe my brain is the Library of Alexandria.
It's an intuitive thing.
Yeah.
It
But
is.
she's not intuitive.
Yeah.
And yet I can go there with them because in my mind,
that's a conversation for another
That's
time.
right.
I can picture this cool, calm elf cleric, and I can
Yes.
picture this gnome with purple hair, this oracle, and I can, and I, and then Kia, who wants to set everything on fire because it's just a fireball sorcerer.
Right.
And then and so maybe my mind is the Library of Alexandria. I don't know.
There you go. I think all of our minds are.
Yeah.
If it is,
Yeah.
it's lost time.
There it is. True. There you go. There you go. Well, okay. Now that we've had fun,
On to the dumpster fire.
yes. So,
Hold on. Is this the appropriate approach for a
so
tribunal?
to kind of transition into our main conversation, and I know it might be a little bit of a hard transition, but what we wanted to talk to you guys mainly about is inside of the gaming world that we just kind of expressed how much love we really have for it, and kind of the lengths that we're willing to go to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Recently, like within the last week, I guess time-wise, because, podcasting time is a little
First part
wonky.
of January.
The first part of January, thank you. There were a few different events that Hasbro has kind of come out and kind of brought to the light. Now, if you're not familiar with Hasbro as the company, they are, I believe, the largest, if not one of the largest worldwide board gaming producers and designers. They make they own Parker Brothers, they own all these different game brands, but two of the big game brands, especially for us, that are kind of near and dear, at least to our roots, are Dungeons and Dragons and Magic: The Gathering.
Which are specifically Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah, well, and Wizards of the Coast owns the Magic: The Gathering line. And then I believe Hasbro in general just owns the Dungeons and Dragons license. I don't think.
No, they bought Wizards of the Coast. They own
solely
Wizards of the
they
Coast.
own Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah, they bought
So whatever
Wizards.
came with Wizards of the
and-
Coast.
Right.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, is it accurate to say that Wizards of the Coast owned Dungeons and Dragons
Yes.
prior to? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll let you all figure that out. I don't know.
That's why we need a few lawyers.
So
Many lawyers.
anyhow, so Hasbro, the overall owners of, as we said, Wizards of the Coast brands, so Magic: The Gathering, Dungeons and Dragons, they had both a fireside chat, which, if you've gotten a chance to listen to it, sounds more like a conference call with mainly shareholders, but they give a lot of information that is both consumer-based and business-based. And then after that, just like a day or so after that, there was a new open game licensing contract that had been leaked, and not in entirety because it's 900 pages apparently in entirety, but a few pages, enough for people to get pretty amped up about it.
Yeah. Not happy about it.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of material that we don't have, obviously, but there's some significant material that we do have that kind of indicates a little bit of the direction that Hasbro is going. So just to kind of give like an overall, we know that with the Magic: The Gathering brand, they have recently started, I think last year was when they pumped out a big majority of these, what they're calling tentpole sets which are like standalone Magic the Gathering sets. So your Dungeons and Dragons Forgotten Realms, your Baldur's Gate. They just recently, I think, came out with or getting ready to come out with a Transformers one.
I didn't even know the characters from the Forgotten Realms when they made that.
Yeah,
They have characters not from the Forgotten Realms in the Forgotten Realms,
that's true. It's true.
and I'll shut up now.
That's true. That's all right.
It's coming, Jason.
Yeah. So for Magic the Gathering, the main crux is they have found financial success in these different campaigns of sets that they're bringing out that are not necessarily affiliated with what Magic the Gathering has had in the past, which is basically like a core set and then some additional sets that are connected to that core set. And then, so what they're doing now is, in order to try and introduce new players to the game, they're coming out with these individual sets, and then I think they've got like Secret Lair is a set that is a standalone set. I can't remember what the other
Secret.
Unrivaled or something like that. There's another set
because it was like unglued and
Yeah,
then whatever. So
yeah.
probably unrivaled, something like that. Is probably
yeah.
right.
There's this other standalone set that's like silly, funny cards and stuff like that.
that's-
And then they've got these tentpole sets, so like their Transformer set, their soon-to-be Warhammer 40K set, a bunch of other these like standalone themed sets that are there specifically to attract new players.
Can they be used by old players?
The mechanics are still the same for the game, but if your question in entirety is, are these cards going to be able to match up with what would be technically like a competitive, even in a casual sense, a
Yeah.
competitive Magic deck?
And I ask
I
this not
don't
as a
think
person
so.
who is one, just
Yeah.
as a thing, because some people are, and
Yeah.
they are a lot of people out there,
Right.
that play the game.
Right.
And
I
so
think you can mechanically, you can use them, but I believe that they are standalone. Again, there's a lot of information I don't have,
Sure.
mainly just because I've been out of the game for a while. But there are specific sets. I think like the Secret Lair set, that is a standalone set. I don't think that influences Standard or Modern or Commander or anything. I think Commander is probably the closest set type that you can invest in that actually has an influence on Standard, because I believe some of those cards do cross over. Not all of them will, because there's Commander specific cards and things
Yeah.
like that. But if you buy like the Transformer set, I don't think a Transformer set is going to translate into actual gameplay with the newest actual competitive sets that they have.
well,
out.
that's really my question.
Yeah.
Is like, are they intended to be able to, like, no matter what? Because in Magic, previous to all of this, before Hasbro, and I have Magic cards. I play it. It's a fun game. I don't play competitively because I don't like doing that with card games. But for those who do, can you take this new properties, and it's all Hasbro property? I can't wait for the G.I. Joe set to come out. I say
Oh,
this.
my
I
Lord.
love G.I. Joe.
Yeah. It's
They're gonna have the
probably-
Monopoly
I was
set
gonna
come
say
out?
it's
Are they gonna have
probably
a
a few
Lagoon
years
set
down the
come out?
line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that they're doing Assassin's Creed and
Right.
Lord of the Rings and
So
stuff
can
like
you
that.
take those cards and play them? Like, if you're like, oh, this one card from here, I got 3 of them. I'm going to put them in my standard deck, and
Sure.
let's go play with friends at the gaming store. Is that
Sure.
at-
I
in
think
our
you can
tournaments?
probably do that.
See, then that's not a loss. That's not a bad.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
not bad. If you
I
can
th-
do that, that's not bad.
Yeah, I think you can throw like a Megatron in your standard deck.
In my
and-
blue-white deck.
Yeah, and
obviously
play
Megatron
with
is
your
not
friends.
blue-white.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, he's gotta. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely not. He's at least red.
Right, exactly.
He's a tank. I mean,
Exactly.
he's at least red. Yeah, so I think that for casual play, you can probably translate those cards over into. Again, I haven't even outside. So here's what I do know is like I bought several packs of the Forgotten Realms set, the D&D Forgotten Realms set.
Yeah.
Those translate directly into the game. So I don't know that was intended to be a tentpole set.
It
I
was.
say tentpole because that is the actual term that they use in the call. But,
Right.
But those cards do 100% translate into a casual standard deck.
So it was. I know the Forgotten Realms ones were not, and neither was a Baldur's Gate set,
Okay.
because those are standard releases.
Okay.
And I only know this because of Magic Arena.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And you will never see Transformers. You will never see 40K.
Yeah.
You will never see those things there, which means they're actually not viable in tournament standards when you're playing at your local store.
Yeah.
You can buy these things, and they're just for fun. Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. I'm down for just for fun.
Yeah.
Um,
I would
So are you-
agree with you, but there is an initiative for them to take Magic Arena to Steam.
Exactly.
Because Steam is the
Oh, yeah.
largest online gaming
Yeah.
portal in the world.
Yeah.
No, and I think so. That's going to be in its own conversation there. But the Magic the Gathering, I mean, Ascension did the same thing. Every set you can physically buy for Ascension is available digitally through the app for people to play.
Yeah, but that's a privatized app that
Arena.
Stoneblade actually
Right.
created.
But Magic the Gathering is a privatized app that's sold through the Steam store. It's also
It
sold.
will be, yes.
Right.
It will
right.
be,
But
yes.
I think it's
It's
available
free
for
right
other
now.
places. Okay.
You can just go get it off of their
Well,
website
and
right
Ascension is free
Yeah.
for the base game.
Yeah.
It's the expansions that cost because we're in a world that microtransactions are a thing.
Microtransactions.
As long,
Boo.
no, I get that, but on the same note, for Magic the Gathering, the entire game has
Oh,
always been
certainly,
microtransactions,
100%.
physically or
Yes,
digitally. It's
which
the
is
same game,
Also wide.
right? That's why I don't get into
I'm
it
good
either.
with having
but
fun. That's
at
cool.
least that one maintains its core. It's always
Certainly,
been a game of
certainly.
microtransactions.
Always.
Certainly.
Always.
Except the secret layers thing. That one's really just kind of.
It's
Let's
pomp.
have pretty cards
it's
that I
a
can't
lot
use.
Of pomp. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Anyway, make posters, not cards.
So in addition to the Magic, sorry, Deb, did you have? No,
No, I'm just
cracking
sitting
up.
over here. No, honestly, because I don't play Magic, never
Yeah.
have, never will. I imagined Megatron card in the middle of your fantasy set that you were able to add because you can just add it, and you're playing in the middle of a serious tournament game, and you're throwing down Megatron.
I mean,
Yeah.
And I'm picturing the 47-year-old who's been playing Magic for 20 years looking
Yeah.
at you like,
all I'm
what
saying
the-
is,
I'm just.
some Dritz and Soundwave. There's
Dude, my Megatron attacks your Morden Kanan,
yeah, right, exactly.
who is not from the
Exactly.
Forgotten Realms.
Hang
Right,
on, let me-
thank you
yeah,
so
yeah,
much.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just
Oh,
the
that's great.
ludicrousy of that. I'm just over here going, all right, go on with your little selves, but
Yep.
what the
Lunacy.
lunacy.com. Anyway,
Anywho,
So, the second half of the fireside chat was talking a lot about, and I guess it was kind of broken into thirds because they gave like general information, and the general information, I implore you there's a couple of videos of like people just doing like a blind react to it, which that's what I did, was I just listened to the entire call on a blind react because I wanted to hear the whole call to make my own opinion, and that's what I suggest you do. I think that it's great to listen to other like YouTubers and other media and stuff like that, but I'm always one who will seek to find the answers for myself so that I can either corroborate evidence that somebody has provided already, or I can counter the evidence that someone has
you
provided
mean have
already.
an informed opinion?
I love having
So
an informed
strange.
decision.
Weird.
Yeah.
Weird. Why
Or
should anyone
opinion.
have that at all?
I
Right,
don't even
right.
know what
So-
this world is that we've become.
Critical thinking. Who cares?
Right.
Why should we do this at all?
So I encourage you to go and find that information for yourself. But I think the bigger crux of what we wanted to talk about is the Dungeons and Dragons world.
yeah.
So I'm probably you're running a current Dungeons and Dragons game, aren't you?
Well, no, I'm
No?
playing in
Okay.
I'm playing in a 5e game.
Okay.
That is going to be it's a VTubing game, so we have art for our characters, and it's in the current 5e before whatever else may or may not happen is about to happen, and it is a homebrew world, but we're using the
The 5.0.
5.0
Right.
Yeah, or 5.0.
rules.
whatever
The rule
rules.
set.
like them or don't like them. Either way, that's what we're doing.
Right. So, and I know that Deb has not gotten a chance to play 5e at all.
Never played it
Josh
in my
has
life.
played a little bit of 5e, but mainly we're Pathfinder players.
That's correct.
That is
I
correct.
am a little bit of experience in 5th edition. I do have sitting up there the Curse of Strahd, the Dragonlance box set, and I'm looking forward to Sky Raiders of Operox, which is
Right.
on
I
the 5th
see a
edition set.
I
consistent
feel like
saying here,
yes,
though.
yes.
I see
Yeah.
a consistency there. A Tracy and a Hickman are two
Yeah.
words.
Except
that just
he
come
had
to my
nothing to
mind.
do with
He
this
didn't have nothing to
Dragonlance
do with-
box,
Yeah.
No.
which is annoying,
But
it's still
Dragonlance is
Dragonlance.
his. It's Dragonlance.
Well, is it?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's-
I mean,
Well,
let's
It
talk
was-
about
it was
let's talk about
inspired by him.
Hasbro.
all right, yeah.
but it's a we
Anyone
can
who gives a
correct the
flub
things that are
about
wrong.
Dragonlance
Yeah.
is because of Tracy
Go ahead,
Hickman.
Josh.
and
Exactly.
No,
otherwise-
that's the thing is
100%
we
true.
we can correct what's wrong
And
about the box
Marguerite.
set.
Yeah,
we need to.
in fact.
That's I had to do that in 3.02. So.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly. So I think our biggest, at least most passionate standpoint right now is that there was information. First of all, the way that they are looking to go, Hasbro is looking to go with Dungeons and Dragons as a playable medium, seems to be, not to say that they have eliminated the possibility of having like hardback books, which I don't know that they'll ever really get rid of, because I think that there's still a market for those things. But I think what they're looking to do is they're really looking to push the idea of doing all digital for their role playing for their role playing game. They've looked at what success Roll20 has had, what success Foundry has had, what success D&D Beyond has had, which is now a Hasbro product because they bought it last year.
Yep.
And all of these different digital formats that people have used kind of part and parcel to build out their best experience
Out of necessity.
Right.
They are looking to consolidate that all under one umbrella. For the most part, I'm kind of summing up things here, but they want to consolidate that all under one umbrella, which I believe is one D&D.
Yes.
They're looking to and one thing that I did find very interesting, and a YouTuber that I watched, she had made a couple of different videos. She's probably made a couple since then too, but she was talking about the biggest thing that D&D corporate was trying to figure out is who their whale is, and I don't know that I had ever really heard that term before.
Oh, I know exactly
but
that term.
yeah, but they were but basically what they were looking for was kind of their target audience, their biggest spender. So then they figured out that even though they only make up 20% of the actual audience of Dungeons and Dragons, Dungeon Masters are by and large the highest spending people in the game market, which
So let me say this. You definitely don't know your community if you didn't know that already.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing, Jason. I was like,
Yeah.
well, duh. I
Yeah.
mean,
we
you had to do how much research to figure that out?
Dungeon
God
Masters
bless
buy
you,
your
but
books. Dungeon Masters buy the
We're the
battle
people
mat.
that run the games. We're
They're the people that
like,
run
The
the games.
maps, they're going to get
As a
extra
matter of
minis for their
fact,
players if they need to do that.
obviously.
They're going
They're
Right.
the people that
Duh.
spend the most money.
9 times out of 10, they're the ones who are making the crock pot chili in the other room, so that
Exactly.
their players got something to snack on
Come
while they're
on.
all hanging out for 3
Tell us.
hours.
Yeah, with our friends,
Yeah, exactly.
because we're all having fun together.
Exactly. It doesn't make any. You're absolutely right. Like, it doesn't make any sense that it would take you this long to figure out the Dungeon Masters are the biggest investors in
Any
their
game.
role playing game.
And it is funny that they said the number's 20%. Yeah, because the average table's 4 people.
Right.
And a game master.
Like-
Woohoo,
Right.
math.
20%.
Yes.
You can do some math.
Game stores are the biggest investors.
Game
Yeah.
stores are the biggest
Yes.
investors.
Well, yeah, and there's a good point there too.
But when you look at that, I'll agree / disagree. I agree that game stores buy the most product,
But they have to sell that.
but they
product.
also have to sell that product, and they will sell it at a markup. So then your players and your DMs are actually spending more money per capita than what the game store would be for the same product. I agree with you, though, that they're dropping thousands of dollars for product so that those dungeon masters and those players
Yes.
can show up and they can buy those things and spend 4 hours playing the Adventure League with their friends, or whatever homebrew that they decide to
Because people
Build
don't really
out.
show up for Adventure League anyways.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's true. That's why I run a homebrew game.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Professional.
I tease as a Society person, that's all, because even Society took a major hit at Gen
Yeah.
Con last year. So
Oh, yeah.
it's totally a
Well,
joke.
structured play is this is what happens is you have and I love them and I've bought product from them, but you have companies like Critical Role, or there are a vast many more role-playing groups
they're brands.
that put their stuff out on YouTube, and I definitely encourage you to check them out as well. But Critical Role is a great brand. They have great players. They have a really good product. They have a great marketable product because they have a company like Hasbro that sponsors through their D&D Beyond, and then also influences the audience by saying, hey, we're going to publish directly certain open game licensing things.
So I'll say this: I don't know that they are a great brand.
Okay.
I will never say that, and
Sure.
I can't
That's
actually
fine.
say that
I'm
as
not
someone who
asking
runs
you
also.
to.
Simply because,
Yeah.
unlike any of us who sit around the table together and play, they're sponsored by basically all the major gaming companies who make minis,
Sure.
who make maps,
Yeah.
who Roll20 or D&D Beyond actually.
Yeah.
Oh, they're sponsored by those people.
Wormwood, Roll20,
So they have
WizKids.
money behind them
Yeah.
that no one else sitting at the table has.
I agree.
Agreed.
So they are, while they did start from, and I have no problem, I'll say this too, I got no problem with those cats. I think they're great people.
Yeah.
I like them, and they have addressed these types of things themselves with the community, which I
100%.
think is awesome.
Yeah,
Like, I
100%.
that's great.
Yeah. They want to encourage exactly what we want to encourage.
Yeah,
which
totally.
is a table of players sitting down and having a great time telling cooperative stories. They sponsor, or they are sponsored, therefore they have to talk about their sponsor affiliates.
Sure.
That's how those things work. But
So-
I go ahead.
Okay, so I don't have all the details. We've mentioned the open game license now a
Yes.
couple of different times. I know we're going to ultimately transition to this. You're going to see tons of content sitting out there about leaked pieces of a document for the possible updated open game license 1.1. For those who don't know, many role-playing game systems that utilize the content created by Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons & Dragons currently falls under the open game license 1.0A, including Pathfinder 1st and 2nd edition. Some of the other content that we have up here has been released. As I mentioned, all the stuff that Tracy Hickman's doing with the 5th edition is under the Open Game License 1.0A, which was, generally speaking, a perpetual license, allowing them to utilize any of the content within Wizards of the Coast that was not intellectual property
Right.
specifically. So you can build your own worlds utilizing the rule set, but like the Beholder, which is a Dungeons and Dragons thing, you can't specifically use that because they own that copyright without express written consent, that type of stuff, whatever. But some of the terminology that is being rumored based off this leak in 1.1 is now taking content created by those creators and possibly making claim that Wizards or Hasbro will now have the right to take that content, produce their own content with that content in it, thus making money off of it and cutting off the creator. That is probably the biggest thing that I've heard coming out of this, which is why when you mentioned Critical Role, as Lance actually sent me a text asking what kind of impact that could have on them. It could have a major impact on them due to, like, Wildemont just came out. They're in the process, I think, of working on a second book as well that's supposed to be under the 1.0 license, etc. But with 1.1 going forward, if that turns out that not only that Wizards can take that content and make money off of it themselves, but also sever the 1.0A license, what impact does that have on previous content? People don't know. Does Critical Role continue moving forward with D&D as their system as a result, or does Matt Mercer put out his own system? Like, so many things come out of that present questions that we've now had our own personal conversations, and we wanted to kind of get on mic and express our concerns regarding that and some other things, of course. And I know Jason in particular has quite a bit he's been wanting to say for the 40 minutes we've already done on this episode.
so-
Yeah, but it's not all about me. Like,
I know.
but yes, like, definitely. And to that end, right? The unfortunate truth is, and then looking at the 1.0 license, there's a hidden condition there. It's like this states, this license is perpetuated and remains in effect even if additional licenses are made claiming OGL 1.0A's is no longer an authorized license agreement. Within their own clause have written previously, this 1.1, if it's real at all, is basically moot unless you choose to follow it, which then it's become much more like a Creative Commons license. So you could choose which attribution level you want. You can, choose, I want to go with Creative Commons 3, 4, 1, whatever. Now, I know Wizards are not Wizards. I can fully say this is Hasbro and not Wizards.
Yeah.
Hasbro is going to want to squeeze as much blood from a stone as they can because they aren't people in the community. In fact, they actually don't care about the community. And what the Fireside thing states, that meeting, what you get from watching that and reading these leaked pieces of this document, is that these people are not a part of the gaming community. They are suits.
Mm-hmm.
They care about their bottom line and how much money they can squeeze from a community. Okay, I get when you have a business, you want to make money, right? But I would hope that if you also have a business, you have people that are within that community so that it is an ethical business plan, that it is something you understand, that you have any understanding of the community at all. When you attempt to change the game like this, and I've agreed, like this is not an effect yet. This is something they put out there, and supposedly, possibly something that they wanted to put out to see how the community would react. Well, the community doesn't react well to you trying to squeeze them.
Yeah.
Right? That's not okay. Don't do that. In fact, go home. Let us run it. We'll do it better than you.
Yeah, and I think to your point, one thing that I did find, and again, I watched listened to the whole call, and what was very interesting was there were multiple times, and you could tell that they were not talking to an audience of consumers. They were talking to an audience of investors and an audience of people that are spending money for Hasbro to make more money.
Yeah.
And what I found was very interesting because, to your point, exactly that. They were talking about how, for example, and I know, again, Magic the Gathering is not necessarily a game that all of us play, but one thing that they did say was, which I found just astronomically silly, was that even though they have all of these tent post sets coming out, they have 6 different sets planned to come out like every 2 months or every 3 months this year. And then they've got like the Secret Layer set, and they've got a bunch of other sets, and then they've got the regular core set that's going to be coming out. A lot of players who are regular players, competitive players for Magic the Gathering, whether it be on Arena or live in a store or at a competition or something like that, they were concerned because of the value of their cards being diminished because of how many cards are actually flooding the market. And the lady who, I think she may be the CEO of Magic the Gathering, I'm not 100% sure, but she said, paraphrasing, she said, well, I don't really see that it's going to be too big of an effect on the market for cards just because we're bringing out more sets of cards. I just don't see where somebody who's playing Magic would get that. And I'm like, that doesn't have anything to do with Magic. That's economy. When you flood the economy with a certain product, then everything else comes down. When there's a surplus of something, price goes down.
When there's a surplus of bad news, stock prices go up 5%. Literally, he just told me that Hasbro stock's up 5% since the leak.
Yeah,
so.
it's nuts. It's nuts. And the thing is, like, I think none of us are against the improvement or the expansion or new players coming into this hobby.
Not
We
at
are
all.
not gatekeepers
Not at all.
at all. We want to see this hobby thrive. We want to see people enjoy what we've enjoyed for years.
And not have to go through the headache that some of us have had to go through for years to just enjoy it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I, the vision of 1D&D being online, especially in the wake of the pandemic and everything that came about of that, like there is some legitimate benefits to being able to have a place that I can go get the D&D content, I can get onto a virtual tabletop, because right now there's a lot of discrepancy right there. Even with the open game license, there's not a lot of great virtual options for playing D&D. There's not. Even Roll20 doesn't do a great job with it, and the Foundry folks are all unpaid guys trying to figure out how to make a module, right?
Yeah.
So it's good to have that official support, so long as it's not the only option.
Agreed, and that's the other problem then, that Hasbro is trying to make their game the only game. They're basically attempting to monopolize
They
it.
have literally said that they want to be the leader in gaming.
Yeah, and
Period. And the thing is, they already
They are.
They
right.
already
it's like,
are.
You are. What do you want?
You're
What more do you
Vince
want?
McMahon.
Yeah, that's
So,
exactly
I'm
it.
about to go there. Be
That is
careful.
exactly
So
it.
like
You're telling me be careful?
with that
100%
specifically
it.
being the only skin in the game,
Yeah.
right, is what they're
Yeah.
looking for, right? Then where do all these beautiful things that we have here on the table go?
Exactly.
And here's the answer: if that 1.0 license comes out, so many people will be
1.1.
jumping ship. 1.1, sorry, apologies. 1.1 comes out.
Too many
So many
numbers.
people will be forced, not even want to, be forced to jump ship to do their own thing, that they will actually lose
Yes.
market.
Yes.
When you have over 750,000, if you've gained that in a year on your sales of 1.0 license stuff, you have to report it to them. Even backlog things again
Yeah.
in 1.0.
Yes.
They can't do that because their 1.0 clause states that doesn't
doesn't
they're not
exist.
reading their own.
Yeah.
They haven't read their own.
They
PR.
haven't even read their own stuff.
No.
So, but regardless, companies like Paizo and there are a few others out there, they will be forced to either go on board or have significant losses and jump ship and create completely their own new systems. And people are going to follow those brands. So what you're doing by changing this is actually losing customers to your brand.
Well, and
Unless you have the confidence and you got the
cojones.
inner fortitude to think that you've got enough pull and enough clout that people will just go wherever you go.
Well,
And you're talking about gamers here.
that's what I'm saying.
Which I'm
We're
like, you ain't talking
opinionated
about
and
16-year-olds.
I don't know about that.
But the thing is, they have from their perspective, and we're just talking about 2 brands.
Correct.
We're not talking about, they have 1,500 licensed IPs under Hasbro. 1,500. They're trying to reduce that amount and concentrate on depth instead of breadth. But the fact of the matter is, we're talking about, accumulatively, if you were to count them as uniques, 100,000 gamers worldwide that are playing Dungeons & Dragons and Magic the Gathering.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to count them as uniques. There are over 50 million people in the world that play Dungeons & Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
It is the #1 selling tabletop role-playing game.
It's when Deb mentioned Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
And this is not a stable podcast, but
But it might turn into that because we got news about that too.
Yeah, because the controversy behind him retiring last July in disgrace, only to then use his majority shareholders to basically bully himself back onto the board of directors, literally just happened.
Yep.
Because he wants to sell the company, and the shares went up 15+%
Yes.
in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
There's just too many similarities to this, and
Yeah.
exactly because he
Is Vince
always
on
thought.
Hasbro's board?
I don't know.
It's a work.
No, but
It's all work.
But it is the death knell of a company.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm hearing
because
the gong.
they think that they are the only game in town. And here's the thing.
We are the great. Oh, wait a minute.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
10 years ago, 13 years ago, whatever, D&D was the only game in town. Like
It
there was
it
no,
was the only major
yeah.
title.
13, White Wolf.
well, but I mean, even
Yeah, but
major
even if you look at the
That's true.
difference
It
between
wasn't. Yeah, there
numbers,
wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
with the release of 4th edition and
Oh,
how poorly it did.
Oh,
That. You all right? You all
Oh.
right over there, Deb?
That's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
fraction 4th edition.
Oh,
It is.
okay.
Paizo was able to take hold.
genuinely
Yeah, completely.
concerned.
And
You're welcome.
Pathfinder 1st edition did become the #1 tabletop role-playing game in the world for an amount of time.
It was fantastic. I mean, it still is fantastic.
And it was produced under Open Game License 1.0a.
yes.
Yeah.
I think Paizo saw the writing on the wall, not just as a business. Like, they reached 10 years, were extremely grateful for all their people, and said, we need to go on to something new
Yeah, we gotta
to
bail.
stay alive as a business.
We gotta bail.
So the 2nd edition comes out. And now when you look,
Second
those
edition was
2nd
great.
edition has the Open Game License in the back of it. If you do the research, there's not a lot in there that they actually use that's
Yeah.
Wizards.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost all their own world, their own race, ancestries, the general, like, dragons are mythical creatures. You can't copyright those.
Elves
exactly.
are mythical creatures.
Yeah.
Anyone read Lord of the
things are.
Rings?
Yeah.
So,
Dwarves.
but now, if you under this 1.1, if it comes out again,
Yeah.
it's not a must. It's not a will, and hopefully someone at Wizards, not Hasbro,
Yes.
is listening. If this comes out and is actually a thing, Paizo, even with that, has to go back through their catalog and go, well, our 2.0 is loosely based on this somewhat.
All they have to do is remove the license, because if they've done enough development on it, they no longer have to consider that in a license. What's going to get Paizo is their upcoming releases for, like, the Abomination Vaults that's due
Yeah.
for 5th edition.
Yeah.
Like, or the Kingmaker trilogy or whatever that's coming out now that is under 5th. That is the stuff that could get them.
Well, and same with other companies out there like Storytellers Forge, who've done
Sure.
Siren Battle of the Bards and the Red Opera, and I know that they have more in the works. I can't tell you how I know, but I do.
understand.
And like that type of stuff, those people will have to be very concerned about what they make there too, and what they do. And that actually, what this in the end does is it stops breeding creativity in a community, and starts to breed, you must be on our ship solely, or you're not on any ship at all. Which means you start putting out crap product, which they already have been anyway.
Yeah.
They don't put out source books except for Matt Mercer's Tal'Dorei, which
Right.
great.
Yeah.
We need actual source books for things, not just modules. Give us a source book for the worlds.
You mean like
Haven't done
Paizo
that at
does?
all. Like any edition
Like any
And
edition is
has done
supposed to.
before this terrible edition, who does not give you enough tools to actually do anything with. They only expect you to buy their products
Yes.
to run.
I heard that just the other day. The 5th edition is one, and again, I don't have any problems with 5th edition. But when I
do.
heard somebody made this comment, I went, "This is actually absolutely true." There is tons of content for players, and not enough for game masters.
Not at all.
100%.
And that is,
I love D&D
if that's your-
5e, and
yeah.
I could have said the same
And
thing.
if DMs are your whales, well, where's your support for them?
yes,
You got nothing to go
You
after.
people
the whale,
don't know what
Moby
you're
Dick.
doing. You're
Yes.
bad business people.
Moby, you are
Give up.
serious. Moby's doing fine. I'm sorry, Captain Ahab's screwed.
I
so-
think generally speaking, though, that if the creator clause happens to be true, if the creator clause does happen to be true, then that's going to be one of the first things that needs to change. And I think it needs to be, amazingly enough, collaborative. Like, if you are going to release a collaborative storytelling, why don't you collaborate with your creators?
What?
Give them incentive.
Josh
Like,
Zamory.
I understand.
Completely agree.
I understand that it does, from a business perspective, it would make sense. Look, you're going to use our game license. We would like X percentage, but it doesn't need to be more than a couple percent. You'd make a ton of money, but in turn, it allows those smaller creators to use you as a marketing engine.
Correct. And then
And-
you diversify your market. You have more people coming in, and you have more people that feel that they can actually get in on board and do something with this.
Right. But it does but I see the concept here where Hasbro may have partial ownership in it, but not so much that they can take it away.
Right.
That's the other
That's the
thing.
other one.
Yes. So and I think if there's reality that this came out to get opinions, if you want our opinion, work with creators. Do not screw the creator.
Throw it in the trash.
Support-
That's our
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah.
Throw that in the trash. Support your community and find ways. Go out to the community and talk to other creators, other people that have been using the 1.0 license successfully, and figure out what has worked there and do that. Instead of just having a bunch of suits in a room that sit around and make decisions that where they have no idea what they're talking about or who their market actually is. They have it numbers on a page, but you don't know that market, and you don't obviously understand the gaming market. You don't
Well,
at all.
And what I would say dovetails precisely into what you say, because I was someone who got excited when D&D 4th Ed came out before I played it, because I like 3.5. And so I thought, okay, 4th Ed, I will play 4th Ed. I played it one time. Dear God, deliver me
You mean World
from
of
this much
Warcraft?
stupidity.
Tabletop World of Warcraft?
It was the
Yeah.
best role-playing game rules for a board game.
Yeah.
Well,
That was
yeah.
a, that was a
If you
board
played
game,
the
not a role
D&D
playing.
Adventure
Totally
board
agree with you,
game?
Deb. Totally
Yeah,
agree with you.
100%.
That was
So
hot
as-
garbage.
So as soon as I experienced that, I'm like, you guys have no clue what you're doing. You have just proved to me that you are
Inept.
inept. Thank you, Bet. I got kids in the other room. Yes, completely inept at what you're doing. That you may make a good board game, but we're not board gamers. We are role play gamers. Your brain functions differently. Anyway,
Well, as well, I still don't think they've put out good products since then.
no. Well,
5e is not.
I haven't played 5e because there
Don't.
has been nothing
I mean-
that any one of you have tried to sell me on for 5e except Sky Raiders, Tracy and Laura Hickman. I was willing to play in a 5e game to learn how do I play this thing so I can play Sky Raiders.
Ravenloft,
or
we will.
play in the
It's a-
don't
it's a-
mention the name of it anyway.
No, that's a great port because it came from Tracy Hickman and it came from the original module
Yes.
before that, which was wonderful. They basically ported it, added a couple things.
Yes.
But that's
The creative
Castle
mind,
Ravenloft.
one
Boom.
of the most creative minds, the Dragonlance, I don't need to say anything else, but Straw, do I need to say anything else? I will follow him. I'll follow him. He's a creator who I love. Ask Tracy Hickman.
Yeah.
Has anyone called Tracy Hickman up about this? I'm pretty sure you didn't, because
Ask-
you already got sued and lost
Talk with Lee
once
Greenwood.
before when
Lee-
you tried to pull shenanigans on him before. So that if 4E didn't tank me, then the way you screwed Tracy and Margaret Weiss and they dealt with that. Now you're gonna try this? I got no interest in touching anything you got with the longest pole on the planet. I'm gonna run away and I'm gonna say you guys can put it where the sun don't shine And I don't care. You may be the biggest kid on the block, but the biggest kid on the block could also be the biggest bully on the block.
We can
and I
all
know what I like
boycott
with
you.
bullies.
We can all boycott you.
Yeah.
So that's just it. They do not support the community, and they do not reach out to those in the community that have been there, or new or old.
Yeah.
Margaret
They are
Weiss and
not
Tracy Hickman
supporting
are
it.
established pillars in our community.
But they out of 50,000 Dungeons and Dragons players, they did like 10,000 reviews of the players, so they obviously know exactly what we all want. Like, that's enough, right? Out of 50 million players, 10 grand.
Yeah, 10,000.
They surveyed 10,000 players.
You don't
I
do
was like,
surveys.
"Oh, okay."
Someone as a researcher, surveys are only useful in certain aspects of
I agree.
understanding information.
agree.
And if you really want to do this successfully, you honestly need to reach out to the creators, young and old,
Yes.
who are
Yes.
either creating their own games at home. That's going to be harder to do, right? I don't know how you're going to do that. But Paizo, Weiss and Hickman, Lee Greenwood,
Yeah.
Storytellers Forge. You need to reach out to these people because they do understand their community, and you need to start working with them to create something that works. You can't do it on your own. You will only fail, and you will shoot yourself in the foot.
Well, and be willing to diversify the options that are available.
Yes.
I really was impressed here recently when I saw, and I know we speak so highly of Paizo, but I've seen this from other people. But Paizo is the one that I'm most directly involved with because we're second edition players. But they have started to offer their rule sets in multiple virtual tabletops. It's in Roll20, it's in Foundry, it's in the one they're working on helping launch one right now, and all the content's made available there. The Hero Lab, does it mean you have to buy it again? Yes. That's the capitalist side of it. I acknowledge that. But on the same note, it gives you the choice. Do you prefer Roll20 to Foundry? Do you prefer this, whatever? You get that
You
choice
get the
instead
option.
of one D&D is the only option.
And if there's anything you know about gamers,
You give them one option, they will find the other five.
right?
Yeah.
Or make their own.
Or make
Or
their
make their
own.
own.
We'll just go around you.
Right.
Don't try to rules lawyer a rules lawyer.
Oh,
So-
I love it.
So one thing I did want to bring up that I thought was very interesting, and Jason, you kind of touched on this point, and I think we're probably getting real close to wrapping things up. But Maxis is, if you are not familiar with that company,
Oh, I know that company.
They make The Sims.
I know that
Yeah.
company very
Yeah.
well.
And one thing that they have done over the last, I want to say probably 2 years or so, is they have actually, because there are lots and lots and lots of people who make custom content, or they have YouTube channels and they do like house flips on The Sims. They're
That's
my
crazy,
wife
but
and I
cool.
love it. Is so entertaining.
Yep.
Like you would never think that you'd be entertained by 20 minutes of watching somebody tear a house down and then rebuild it. But it's like watching, what is it?
Flip or flop on the HGTV. Yeah.
HGTV.
Yeah, I
It
was
is
gonna say,
Sims HGTV.
house-
It is
whatever, House
fantastic.
Saver or
And
whatever
they
it
have
is,
all
yeah.
these different build challenges. Anyhow,
Yeah.
I digress. One thing that they have done is for people who have proven themselves in the community to be benevolent to the community, who are always looking for outreach and opinions of the people that watch them, that also play The Sims. One of the things that they really do that I think is great is they'll put like a shell challenge together where they just build the walls of the house. It's a blank house. They throw it out on to like their community board. You can download the house, and then you can build the house and then submit it back to them.
Yeah.
And they'll actually go through and look at the different houses and pick like some of their favorites
Yeah.
and feature those homes on their YouTube channel.
That's
Well,
really
they've
cool.
actually reached out to many of these designers to aid them in designing their expansions and their game packs and different things like that, where there are a couple of major streamers that my wife and I watch that they had, I think it's called the Vacation, I can't remember, but it's set in a Japanese setting, and it's really cool. All of the houses, or I think all of the houses that are there, or like a couple of the houses and a couple of the retail spots, are actually designed by non-Maxis designers.
Yes.
And they've done that for
Nice.
multiple. And once they got success and they kind of got that ball rolling, it's remarkable how many people who have influenced the Sims community from the outside have been able to then now influence it positively on the inside. And I think that if Hasbro, specifically Wizards of the Coast, specifically the people who do D&D and Magic the Gathering and all the brands that we are connected to, if you truly want to give service to what Gary Gygax had when he sat down and he designed this game, that is an opportunity for you where millions of people can help you with the input.
Yeah.
And I think that if you don't take that resource to heart, you're going to take it for granted.
Oh,
we are
and
literally
we will leave you in the
and
dust.
we're gonna, and the thing is,
We
it
are
breaks
literally
my
a
heart.
collaborative community.
I personally, I love D&D 5e, but different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we're all about, is being able to promote.
play your game.
Yes, play your
Play
game.
your game.
Everybody has a game. You just got to find the
gotta
one
find
that,
it. You
that
play
connects
it.
with you. This one connects with us in a very real and deep level. Whether you started in the original first edition, AD&D, second edition, third, 3.5, fourth even, 5e, wherever it is that you fall, you know, this is the place that we all get a chance to call home. Some of us just have older pipes than others. You know what I mean? So I
make more noise.
and we make a lot more noise. Yeah. Anyway, but that's what I encourage players, DMs, designers, people who love to put their own homebrew stuff together, especially those who are investing money in this sort of a product. As my friend Alan will always say, let your money talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Let your money talk.
Let your money talk.
If Hasbro is doing these things to do what? Make money. They're hoping that Magic the Gathering will become the first Hasbro brand that will be a billion with a B dollar brand.
I mean, honestly, like, I don't think that making money is a bad thing, right? Like,
No,
that's
I don't
the
either.
unfortunate. But it is the how you
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
And the second you start sacrificing the community
Mm-hmm.
just for God money is the moment. I mean, I'll say this: like, I would prefer to slay the dragon than add to
There it
its
is.
horde.
There it is.
Oh,
There it is.
Oh,
There it is. Go ahead, Deb.
so I remember when the original Sonic movie pictures were leaked.
The one with the no gloves.
No gloves, regular teeth, fat face. Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one. And I remember the uproar of every person that loved Sonic since you were a little kid.
Yeah.
And now they ain't little kids anymore.
Yeah.
Now I get to decide where I take my kid and if my kid's going to get the plushie and the video game and the 73,000 ears they're probably going to wear, Sonic ears, whatever
Yeah.
else they got out there. And they listened.
Yep.
The company making the movie Sonic listened and went back to the drawing board and spent millions of dollars,
30 million.
$30 million to get it right.
Yeah.
And because they were willing to get it right, they listened to a community of people who had been Sonic fans forever and knew that if they did this wrong, you haven't even lost them. You won't even get them to begin with, let
Right.
alone lost them forever. They did it right. They came out and that Sonic movie was adorable and it looked like Sonic, right? And then I paid the money and my kids went to see Sonic 2 because they did it well when
That's
you
it.
bring in Knuckles and you
That's
bring
it.
in Tails. I took my son to his first movie as Sonic 2 because I trusted because Sonic 1 was done well. I'll watch that. And we're sitting there busting out laughing at his very first movie. And if Sonic 3 comes out, you better believe that we're going to have to get pre-advanced tickets now with my kids.
Right.
You better listen now. You listen and you respond, you might be able to save this ship.
So this is like, and now I know we got to wrap soon, so
Yes.
this will be the last thing that I say. The to that, Deb, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The thing here is like, we're not fans.
No.
We are creators.
Exactly.
We are invested.
We are
We are
investors.
We are
yes, we are
invested.
investors
Have you seen
in
the
this
books
community.
on it? Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And because of that, like, and I'm not telling Hasbro to come talk to the four of us, right? That's
No.
not what I'm saying.
No.
I mean,
you can.
well, you want to.
You
I would,
can.
we'd love to because I actually am a creator in the community. But
I got
like,
a table.
Because
Let's
trust
talk.
me, I can do D&D better than the people who are writing it right now, and I know people that will do it also.
Yes.
But anyway, I know that's a big whatever, but I really think they've done a very poor job of writing. Anyway, you have to take this from the consideration. This isn't a bunch of fanboys poo-pooing your Star Wars movie
No.
that you don't like, right?
Right.
No, these are people invested in the community monetarily and with time,
Yes.
who are attempting to communicate with you that this is a
Yes.
very poor decision,
Right.
and not only say why it's a poor decision, but give you options and give you beneficial options to move forward. It's not just a I'm complaining and I'm loud. It's a
Right.
I'm complaining, but here's how you could actually fix it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it is an ultimatum because if you screw this community over, you no longer have it.
Right.
Yep.
They're not going to back you.
Yeah.
Right. You've already lost. They've already lost me.
Yep.
Oh, they lost me. Yeah, same.
Yeah, I mean, now they
And I
haven't
love
lost all
D&D.
of us at this table, but they already lost me with a couple of actions now.
Which is why we only purposefully have one copy of the Player's Handbook. I have two, but I only bought one.
Right.
You
But
again
you're-
with your 2-for-1 sale over here.
He does it a lot. But you're right. You have to understand if you push the big red button, I think you're going to lose a lot more than you imagine you're going to lose because you don't know the people that you're trying, whatever it is you're trying to do, you don't know us.
Yeah.
And if you don't know us, you're not going to be able to get anywhere with us. That's
You will make more money by investing in the community instead of attempting
Yes.
to take away from them.
one of the
I've got-
reasons I like AEW is because Tony
AEW,
Khan.
All Elite Wrestling, for those that don't watch our other show.
Right. Okay. Sorry. But
Gaming channel,
Yeah,
remember.
I know. But one of the reasons I like that in another genre is
Yep.
because he was a fan first. He was not a businessman first. He was a fan first. And then once the fan comes out on him in the way he writes, in the way he books, in the way he hires, I like watching that because I feel like there's a little bit of me of the fan in the guy who writes the checks. And so because of that, you know that some of those dream matches you always wanted to see, he wants to see too, and he's actually trying to give them to you. In the same way, I don't feel like anyone right now in Hasbro, Wizards, wherever we are, none of you guys are fans. None of you guys are giving us what we want because you don't even know what we're talking about. So until that happens, you look at me and you tell me you made Tracy Hickman an executive vice president and he actually has some power to make some decisions, I might listen because I know he knows us. And
Literally.
Literally. Well, yeah, he does actually
knows
literally
us.
know us. That's actually true.
He knows us.
But as a community, he knows us. He has taken care of us creatively for decades. And so I'll follow him.
Well, and there's and I mean to that same vein, there are multiple creators
It's not just
out
him.
there
I mention his
that are
name
under
because
this
we know.
OGL.
Right.
No, you're 100% right, Deb. And not to take anything away from that, there are multiple creators under the OGL that are going to be negatively affected by this.
Yes.
And it gives you the option to listen to your audience and your creator audience as well. And I think we've got one more opinion.
look,
I know Jason
Jason,
said
boy, you
Jason
changed
said he
looks.
didn't have anything else to say. However, he has transformed into a Lance. So
Hi everybody. Lance here. Lance on the mic. I had to step over from behind the cameras just to say one thing. Deb kind of touched on it just a little bit when she said that she took her son to go see Sonic because they fixed it. We have kids,
Yeah, we
and they are going to grow up as gamers. So you have an opportunity to grab that audience
Yep.
because my daughter is 13 and she is a dungeon master. But she's only a dungeon master because I'm a dungeon master. And I'm a dungeon master because someone I care about taught me how to do it. And I watched cartoons and I read books and I fell in love with it. And she's doing the same thing because I'm giving that to her. In the same way that you gave them Sonic or Transformers or G.I. Joe
Mario.
or Ghostbusters.
They're so
for
excited about the
goodness
new
sake.
Mario movie coming
What did
out.
we learn from the Ghostbusters movies? There were 2 good ones, another one, and then another good one. They learned how to fix their mistake,
Ghostbusters 3rd edition, not so good.
right?
Oh, jeez.
Like they were saying with use your wallet.
Yes.
I'm not going to buy it for my kids unless it's good, unless it's valuable for them, and they can use it to create their own content and use that to maybe make some money, to maybe make their friends happy. But if not, you know what? I'm a big fan of White Wolf. I liked playing Vampire the Masquerade. Maybe we'll just go over there.
Yep.
And that's my 2 cents.
Well,
I was good, and then Lance came over here, so I got.
Right.
I'm writing now. Hang on.
Well, I'll put it this way. So, if you hadn't checked out our previous episode, please do. We really had a good time playing King of Tokyo. We're hopefully have some stuff up for our stable podcast here soon, as well as we hinted at wrestling stuff in here only because of the applicability of it, not necessarily because of the content.
No.
Convention season is only a couple months away, as far as we can tell. We will hopefully have some information regarding PopCon Louisville in June soon, which will be interesting
really
as well.
I'm really hoping and praying to hear something about HoosierCon.
Yeah,
well.
me too.
I don't know.
My goodness.
I don't know, but I would love to see those. And then, of course, Fear the Con.
Fear the Con is the same weekend as PopCon Louisville and Father's Day weekend in June. So if you can't make it to Louisville, go to St. Louis.
Yep. And then PopCon Indy is in July.
PopCon
No,
Indy
August.
is at the
It's
end
in
of August, and Gen Con is the beginning of August.
Yeah, that's right.
It's gonna be a busy August. Holy
In conjunction. Anyway.
Yeah.
And I did want to put just a pin in what we were talking about, but you kind of hit the nail on the head. All I kept thinking of was, they had a lot of wrestlers 4 years ago
Yeah.
in the WWE
Yeah.
that had creative ventures on Twitch, that had their own YouTube channels, that had really good contracts, and then people in the company in general decided that they didn't really get it, or they didn't really understand what the audience wanted, and they didn't really like the fact that they had all of these creative ventures that they weren't making money on. So then they ended those contracts with those people, and many of them...
Give me a piece of that pie.
Yeah,
I'll do that
absolutely.
pie. I need to have a piece of your pie. I must
Right.
grow larger.
you
Put
know-
more into my hoard.
Well, and it's even worse than that. It's even worse than that because it's the pie that they made, that they gave these guys,
Right.
that they're like, hey, by the way, I'm going to need 3/4 of that back.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy to me. And that's kind of where we're at right now in this sort of gaming climate. And I think that that's our biggest concern and our biggest warning is that we don't want to see... even though we're fans of tons of role-playing opportunities, regardless what the title is, even if it doesn't have one, the fact of the matter is we're going to support role-play gaming regardless where it is, just like we support pro wrestling, whether it's AEW, WWE, or White
Ring of
River
Honor, New
Wrestling
Japan,
here in
White River
Indianapolis.
Wrestling.
Yeah, we're going to support the things that we're passionate about, but we're not going to support the companies that treat the consumer, us, like we don't matter. And so that is kind of, if you will, the ultimatum is that we want it, but we say it with concern and with a hope that that's not how it's going to turn out.
Because they unfortunately have the stranglehold on a title that all of us grew up with and really liked.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And that's the unfortunate truth, and we don't want to see that disappear.
Yeah, and
But you're not the only skin of the game, Hasbro.
The other weird
right.
thing is I'm definitely going to go and see that Honor Among Thieves
Oh,
movie.
heck yeah, that looks great.
It looks
Oh, yeah.
great. It looks fantastic.
Why?
agreed.
It's Sony, right? Isn't it Sony?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a
Isn't
Sony
it a
picture,
Sony
right?
movie?
I'm all right with that.
Yeah.
They're gonna
Yeah.
get the most
Great
of the money.
actors. It looks
Yeah.
way better.
Yeah, but,
Than the
it's
previous
it's
ones.
a Dungeons and Dragons title.
Right?
It looks great. It looks great.
I want to see an owlbear. A druid turn into an owlbear.
yes.
Yeah, I'm down.
Yes.
Don't care if it's in the rules.
100%.
Right. right.
All right. That's right. That is it. Okay, so, and I know we went a little bit longer, but this is something we're very passionate about, and it took us a minute to kind of get those wheels going, but
Yeah, and basically, please do the right thing.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we will. Anyhow,
If
so
you don't, we will.
So for episode 238, I guess let's go over our last fact. Episode 237's fact. I have it written down. I don't know why I'm flipping my notebook.
Because it was on the other page.
I'm
also.
excited. I'm excited. Okay. Go back and watch the King of Jokio episode 237. Our last fact was Katie and Deb are the biggest oneers. Jason and Don are the new Monster Squad,
Rawr.
which I definitely recommend that movie if you haven't seen it.
It's great.
Avital is a mind-reading, swashbuckling dinosaur, and Josh is dead. Hashtag killed Josh. And for episode 238 of the Established Facts, thanks to Lance, we have two facts. The first one, 900 pages might be too much for even a rules lawyer to decipher.
Oh.
And Hasbro 2023 is to gaming as Ghostbusters is to Ghostbusters 3.
Oh,
Answer the call, Hasbro.
Ooh. Come on. They
Oh,
30
man.
million fixed Sonic. I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
No.
Just saying.
Well, we love you all. We thank you so much
mean,
for joining us on
The
episode.
rich don't need more money anyway.
They don't need it, but they want it.
But you were crunchy and tasty
Maybe
with
we'll
ketchup.
find out.
That's right. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us on episode 238, our dumpster fire episode. We love you so much, and we will check you later.
Bye.